Welcome to my channel, a lead that bring your story about the love of a mafia boss. Now let's listen.
The hotel hallway smelled of expensive carpet cleaner and something floral. Jasmine, maybe, or gardenia, pumped through hidden vents to mask the staleness of recycled air. My heels sank into plush burgundy carpeting as I walked, each step muffled, the silence broken only by the distant ding of an elevator and my own shallow breathing. The dress I wore felt foreign against my skin. Red silk that clung to curves I usually hid beneath business casual and mom jeans, the neckline dipping lower than anything I'd worn since college. My fingers trembled as I clutched the keycard Jake had texted me an hour ago. Room 1247. 8 p.m. Wear something that reminds me why I married you. 10 years. 10 years of marriage, 2 kids, a mortgage, and somewhere along the way we'd stopped seeing each other. Stopped touching except in passing. Stopped being anything more than co-parents managing a household like a business partnership. But last week, Jake had surprised me. Flowers delivered to my office, a reservation at the restaurant where he'd proposed, and tonight, this hotel suite. This dress I'd nervously bought from a boutique where everything cost more than my weekly grocery budget. A second honeymoon, he'd called it. A chance to remember who we were before playdates and parent-teacher conferences consumed our lives. I stopped outside room 1247, my reflection staring back at me from the polished brass numbers. The woman looking back was almost a stranger. Smoky eye makeup applied from a YouTube tutorial I'd watched 3 times. Lips painted the deep crimson the salesgirl had promised was absolutely devastating. Hair falling in loose waves instead of the practical ponytail I wore every day. I looked sexy, confident. Nothing like the exhausted mother who'd collapsed into bed at 9 o'clock every night for the past month. My stomach fluttered with nerves that felt embarrassingly adolescent. Would Jake even recognize this version of me? Would he like it? Or would it feel forced, desperate, trying too hard to recapture something that might already be gone? I pressed the keycard to the lock. The light blinked green. The mechanism clicked. You can do this, I told myself. It's just Jake, your husband. The father of your children, the man you've shared a bed with for a decade. I pushed open the door, a smile already forming on my lips. Words prepared, something flirty and confident that I'd rehearsed in the car. Surprise, The words died in my throat. The suite was massive, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city's glittering skyline. A king-sized bed with sheets that probably cost more than my car payment, leather furniture arranged around a marble coffee table. And standing by those windows, silhouetted against the lights, was a man, not Jake. He turned at the sound of the door, and the breath left my lungs in a rush that felt like drowning. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair swept back from a face that could have been carved from marble by an artist who understood beauty and cruelty in equal measure. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw shadowed with stubble, and eyes so dark they looked black in the low lighting. He wore a suit that probably cost more than my annual salary. Charcoal gray with subtle pinstripes, the jacket opened to reveal a crisp white shirt, and a tie loosened just enough to show the strong column of his throat. But it wasn't his appearance that made my heart slam against my ribs. It was the way he looked at me, a gaze so intense, so utterly consuming, that I felt stripped bare despite being fully dressed. His eyes traveled from my face down the length of my body with an assessment that felt physical, leaving heat in their wake. Behind him, I noticed details my brain had initially missed. 2 men in dark suits standing near the door to what must be the bedroom, their posture alert, their eyes scanning me with professional wariness. Earpieces, bulges beneath their jackets that could only be weapons. This wasn't Jake's surprise. This was someone else's room. Someone dangerous. I'm sorry, I stammered, already backing toward the door, my face burning with mortification. I have the wrong room. I didn't mean to. I was supposed to meet my husband, and I must have read the number wrong. I'm so sorry. Stop. One word, spoken quietly, but with an authority that froze me mid-step. He moved away from the window with a predatory grace that made my mouth go dry. Each step was measured, deliberate, closing the distance between us, while I stood paralyzed, like prey, caught in a spotlight. The scent of him reached me first. Sandalwood and something darker, something expensive and masculine that made my head swim. What room were you looking for? His voice was deep, accented slightly. Italian, maybe, or something Mediterranean that turned each word into a caress. 1247, I whispered, hating how small my voice sounded. His lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. This is 1247. But my husband said. I fumbled for my phone with shaking hands, pulling up Jake's text. The screen blurred as I stared at it, reading and rereading the message. Room 1247, 8 p.m. How could I have gotten it wrong, unless Jake had gotten it wrong, unless he'd made a reservation error, or the hotel had double booked, or... Let me see that. The man's hand extended toward my phone, and I noticed details I'd missed in my panic. A heavy silver ring on his right hand, scars along his knuckles that spoke of violence, perfectly manicured nails that somehow made the scars more menacing. I should have refused. Should have backed out of the room, called Jake, sorted this out in the hallway like a rational adult. Instead, I found myself placing my phone in his palm, watching as those scarred fingers scrolled through my messages with practiced efficiency. Your husband booked room 1249, he said finally, his expression unreadable. Not 47. Easy mistake. Relief flooded through me so intensely my knees went weak. Oh, thank God. I'm so sorry for barging in. You're here now. He pocketed my phone, pocketed it, like he had every right to take my property, and gestured to the bar cart near the windows. Have a drink. Calm down. You look like you're about to pass out. I really should go. My husband is waiting. 2 doors down. He can wait 5 minutes. Those dark eyes fixed on me again, and I felt pinned, captured. Humor me. You walked in here dressed like that, looking like sin incarnate, and I'm supposed to just let you leave without even knowing your name? Heat crawled up my neck, spreading across my cheeks. The way he said it, sin incarnate, made the compliment feel dangerous. Forbidden. I'm married, I said stupidly, as if he hadn't just seen Jake's texts. I noticed the ring. His gaze dropped to my left hand, where my wedding band and engagement ring caught the light. Beautiful stones. Your husband has good taste. A pause. In jewelry, at least. The implication hung in the air that Jake's taste in booking hotel rooms was questionable, or perhaps that he was a fool for leaving me alone, for making me search for him, for not being the one opening the door when I walked in wearing this dress. One of the bodyguards shifted, a subtle movement that drew my attention. The man, this stranger who'd stolen my phone and was now pouring amber liquid into crystal glasses, noticed my glance. Marco, Luca, wait in the bedroom, he commanded without turning around. Give the lady some privacy. They moved immediately, disappearing through the door with the synchronized efficiency of people who'd followed orders their entire lives. The click of the door closing felt ominous, final. I was alone with him. I don't even know your name, I said, then immediately regretted it. Why did that matter? Why was I still standing here instead of fleeing? He handed me a glass, his fingers brushing mine in a touch that sent electricity racing up my arm. Dante. He raised his own glass in a mock toast. And you are? Sarah. The name escaped before I could think better of it. Before I could lie, give him a fake name, maintain some protection of anonymity. Sarah. He repeated it like he was tasting it, rolling it around on his tongue. Beautiful name, classic. Suits you better than that dress, though the dress... His eyes traveled over me again, slower this time. Thorough. The dress is magnificent. Your husband is a lucky man. I took a sip of the whiskey, because I needed something to do with my hands, needed the burn of alcohol to ground me, and nearly choked. It was smooth and expensive, and nothing like the cheap wine Jake and I bought for special occasions. You're Italian, I observed, grasping for conversation, for normalcy, for anything to explain why I was still standing in a stranger's hotel suite drinking his whiskey. Among other things, he moved to the window, looking out at the city below. You're nervous. I make you nervous. You have armed guards in your bedroom, and you stole my phone. Of course I'm nervous. His laugh was low and rich, genuinely amused. Fair point, but I think it's more than that. I think you're nervous because you felt something when you walked through that door. Something you weren't expecting. I felt embarrassed, I shot back, draining half my glass for courage. I felt stupid for getting the room number wrong. Liar. He turned back to face me, setting his own glass down with careful precision. You felt what I felt. Recognition. Like we'd been waiting for each other, and you just walked into the wrong room at exactly the right time. My heart hammered against my ribs. That's insane. I don't even know you. No, he agreed, moving closer again. But you want to. I can see it in your eyes. Curiosity and fear and something else. Something that's making you stay when you should have run the moment you realized your mistake. He was close enough now that I could feel the heat radiating from his body, could see flecks of amber in those dark eyes, could count the individual beats of the pulse in his throat. My own pulse raced to match it, a rhythm that felt primal, dangerous. I love my husband, I said, but it sounded weak even to my own ears. I'm sure you do. His hand rose and I froze as his fingers traced the line of my jaw with infinite gentleness. But when's the last time he looked at you the way I'm looking at you right now? When's the last time you felt beautiful instead of just necessary? The words struck something deep inside me, some wounded place I'd been ignoring for years. Tears pricked my eyes, and I stepped back, breaking the contact that felt too intimate, too raw. I need to go, I whispered. Yes, he agreed. You do. Your husband is waiting. Your life is waiting. But before you go... He pulled out my phone, scrolling through it with an ease that should have alarmed me. His thumbs moved across the screen, typing something I couldn't see. There. Now you have my number. Why would I need... Because you're going to call me. He pressed the phone into my palm, his hand lingering over mine. Maybe not tonight. Maybe not even this week. But eventually. You're going to wonder what would have happened if you'd stayed. If you'd let yourself feel what you felt walking through that door. And when that wondering becomes unbearable, you'll call. I won't. But even as I said it, I felt the lie coating my tongue. We'll see. He opened the door for me, ever the gentleman despite the guards and guns and danger that clung to him like cologne. Room 1249, your husband is waiting. Go be the perfect wife. Pretend tonight was just a mistake. I walked past him on unsteady legs, my whole body trembling with adrenaline and something far more dangerous. In the hallway, I paused, looking back at him framed in the doorway. This beautiful, terrifying stranger who'd somehow seen straight through me in a matter of minutes. Dante? Yes, Bella? Who are you? Really? His smile was sharp as broken glass. Someone who always gets what he wants. And Sarah? He paused, his eyes holding mine with an intensity that stole my breath. I want you. The door closed. I stood in the empty hallway, my heart racing, my body flushed with heat that had nothing to do with embarrassment and everything to do with the way he'd looked at me. Like I was precious, dangerous, worth pursuing. My phone buzzed in my hand, a text from Jake. Where are you? I'm starving. I looked at the closed door of room 1247, then at room 1249, just 2 doors down. My husband. My life. Everything safe and known and comfortable. And behind me, a stranger who'd somehow made me feel more alive in 10 minutes than I'd felt in 10 years. I walked to room 1249, used the keycard Jake had sent, and stepped inside to find him lounging on the bed in his work clothes, scrolling through his phone, barely looking up as I entered. Finally, he said, not even commenting on my dress. Order room service? I'm exhausted. I smiled, nodded, pretended my hands weren't shaking. Pretended I couldn't still feel Dante's touch burning against my skin like a brand. The room service arrived 40 minutes later. Overpriced steaks that Jake barely tasted while he complained about a client meeting that had run long. I pushed food around my plate, nodding at appropriate intervals, my mind 2 doors down where a dangerous man with dark eyes had somehow seen into the parts of me I'd forgotten existed. Jake didn't notice the dress, not really. He'd glanced up when I walked in, said something about me looking nice, then returned his attention to his phone, firing off emails while I stood there feeling ridiculous and overdressed and painfully invisible. We had sex that night because that was the point of this expensive hotel suite. This carefully planned evening. It was perfunctory, familiar. Over in 15 minutes with Jake falling asleep immediately after while I stared at the ceiling, feeling emptier than before. My phone sat on the nightstand, dark and silent. I knew if I opened it, I'd find Dante's number. I knew I should delete it, block it, pretend tonight had never happened. I didn't touch it, but I didn't delete it either. 3 days passed. 3 days of normalcy. School drop-offs and grocery shopping and parent-teacher conferences where my daughter's teacher praised her math scores while I smiled and nodded and felt like I was living someone else's life. Jake worked late 2 nights in a row, texting that he'd grab dinner at the office, coming home after the kids were asleep to collapse into bed without conversation. On the 4th day, my phone buzzed while I was loading the dishwasher. Unknown number. My heart stopped before logic kicked in. It could be anyone. The dentist's office? A spam call? Anything. But I knew. God help me. I knew. Did you delete my number? My hands shook, soap suds dripping onto the screen as I stared at those 5 words. I should ignore it. Should block him right now, this minute, before whatever this was went any further. Instead, I typed back. I should have. 3 dots appeared immediately. He was waiting. Had been waiting for me to respond, but you didn't. Why? Because I couldn't. Because every time I closed my eyes, I saw the way he'd looked at me. Not like a tired mother or an overlooked wife, but like something precious and powerful and worth pursuing. Because Jake had barely glanced at the dress I'd spent 2 hours getting ready in, and this stranger had made me feel beautiful with a single look. I typed and deleted 6 different responses before settling on. This is a bad idea. The best things usually are, have lunch with me. I'm married. I'm aware. Lunch, Sarah. 1 hour. Public place. No guards. No danger. Just conversation. Why? Because I haven't stopped thinking about you since you walked through my door wearing that red dress. Because I want to know everything about you. Your favorite color. What makes you laugh. Why a woman who looks like you spends her time trying to be invisible. The message felt like a caress. Intimate and knowing in a way that made my breath catch. No one had wanted to know those things about me in years. Jake knew my coffee order and my allergies and what time I needed to leave for carpool, but when had he last asked about my dreams, my fears, the person I was beneath the roles I played? Tomorrow, I typed, before I could overthink it. 12:30. The cafe on Maple Street. I'll be counting the hours, Bella. I deleted the message thread immediately, my heart racing like I'd committed a crime. Nothing had happened. Nothing would happen. It was just lunch with someone who found me interesting. That wasn't wrong. That wasn't cheating. The lies tasted bitter on my tongue. The cafe was crowded with the lunch rush. Business people in suits, college students hunched over laptops, mothers with strollers navigating between tables. Safe, public, nothing could happen here. I'd dressed carefully, not the red dress, obviously, but nicer than my usual yoga pants and oversized sweater. Dark jeans that actually fit, a cream-colored blouse, minimal makeup. Casual, but not sloppy. Like I'd made an effort, but not too much of one. Who was I kidding? Every choice had been deliberate, calculated to look effortlessly attractive. Dante arrived exactly on time, and the cafe seemed to shift around him. Conversations paused. Women glanced up from their phones. He commanded attention without trying, his presence filling the space like gravity warping around a star. He wore dark jeans and a black sweater that probably cost more than my mortgage payment, his hair slightly tousled like he'd run his hands through it. No guards that I could see, though I suspected they were nearby, watching from positions I wouldn't notice. His eyes found mine immediately across the crowded room, and that same electric current from the hotel suite sparked to life between us. Sarah. He said my name like a prayer as he approached, not touching me, but standing close enough that I could smell his cologne, that same sandalwood scent that had haunted my dreams. You came. I shouldn't have. But I was already sitting down, already committed. He sat across from me, studying my face with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable, but somehow wasn't. You look beautiful. Different from the hotel, more guarded, but still beautiful. Heat crept up my neck. You don't have to. I never say things I don't mean. He signaled the waitress with a subtle gesture that had her hurrying over immediately. What would you like? I ordered a salad I had no intention of eating, my stomach too twisted with nerves. He ordered espresso and nothing else, his attention never wavering from me. Tell me about yourself, he said once the waitress left. The real you, not the version you show the world. There's not much to tell. I'm a wife, a mother. I volunteer at my kids' school. Those are roles. He leaned forward, his elbows on the table, his focus absolute. Who is Sarah when no one's watching? What does she want? What does she dream about at 3 a.m. when sleep won't come? The question pierced something in my chest. When had anyone asked me that? When had I even asked myself? I don't know anymore, I admitted quietly. I used to want things, to travel, to write, to feel passionate about something beyond making sure everyone else is happy. But somewhere along the way, I stopped being a person and became just necessary. The one who packs lunches and schedules dentist appointments and keeps everything running. And your husband? Dante's voice went soft, dangerous. Does he see you? The real you? I wanted to defend Jake, to insist he was a good man, a good father. But the words wouldn't come. Because the truth was that Jake saw me the way everyone saw me. As a function, not a person. The wife who managed the household. The mother who solved problems. Never just Sarah. He loves me, I said instead. That's not what I asked. Dante's hand moved across the table, his fingers stopping just short of mine. Not touching, but close enough that I could feel the heat of his skin. I asked if he sees you. No, I whispered. He doesn't. Then he's a fool. His pinky finger extended, barely brushing against mine. Such a small touch, meaningless to anyone watching. But it sent fire racing through my veins. Because I see you, Sarah. I see a woman who's forgotten she's allowed to want things, who's convinced herself that being needed is the same as being valued. Tears pricked my eyes, and I blinked them back furiously. You don't know me. You don't know anything about my life. I know you walked into that hotel room expecting your husband to see you, really see you, for the first time in years. I know he didn't even comment on your dress. I know you're sitting here with me instead of running, because part of you is desperate for someone to notice you exist. Stop. My voice broke. Please stop. He did, leaning back, giving me space to breathe. The waitress brought our orders, and I stared at my salad like it held answers. I'm sorry, Dante said after a long moment. That was too much, too fast. I have a habit of being direct. It's okay. I forced myself to meet his eyes. You're not wrong, about any of it. But that doesn't change the fact that I'm married. I have children, I have a life. And you're miserable in it. I'm not. But the lie died before it fully formed. It's not that simple. It could be. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through something, then showed me the screen. Photos of a villa on the Mediterranean. White stone and blue water, and flowers spilling over terraces. I own this property in Santorini, empty most of the year. 3 bedrooms, private beach, staff who know how to be invisible. My heart hammered. Why are you showing me this? Because I want to take you there. Want to spend a week watching you remember how to smile without guilt, how to sleep past dawn, how to be Sarah instead of somebody's wife or mother. His eyes held mine. 1 week. No expectations beyond conversation and sunlight and letting yourself breathe. That's insane. I have responsibilities, children in school, a husband. Who doesn't appreciate you? Who doesn't see you? Who takes and takes while you give until there's nothing left? His voice was gentle but relentless. When's the last time you did something just for yourself, Sarah? When's the last time you felt alive? 4 days ago, I thought, when you looked at me like I mattered. I can't, I said, but it came out weak, unconvincing. You can. Tell your husband you're visiting a college friend. Tell him you need a break, time to yourself. He'll probably be relieved, one less thing to think about while he's working late. The words were cruel because they were true. Come to Santorini. Let me show you what it feels like to be seen. And then what? I come back and pretend it never happened? Go back to packing lunches and being invisible? Maybe. He reached across the table properly now, taking my hand in his. His palm was warm, his grip firm but gentle. Or maybe you realize you deserve more than crumbs from a man who stopped seeing you years ago. Maybe you realize that life is short, and passion is rare, and you're allowed to want things that scare you. I should have pulled my hand away, should have stood up, walked out, blocked his number, and pretended this conversation never happened. Instead, I sat there, my hand in his, feeling more connected to this dangerous stranger than I'd felt to my husband in years. I need time to think, I whispered. Take all the time you need. He released my hand, and I immediately missed the warmth. But Sarah, don't take so long that you forget what it felt like when I touched you. Don't let fear convince you that surviving is the same as living. He stood, dropped enough cash on the table to cover both our meals and a generous tip, then leaned down close enough that his breath brushed my ear. I'll be here when you're ready. A week, a month, a year. I'm patient, because some things are worth waiting for. His lips barely grazed my temple, a ghost of a kiss that shouldn't have felt like anything but somehow felt like everything. And you, Bella, are worth everything. Then he was gone, moving through the cafe with that same predatory grace, leaving me sitting alone with an untouched salad and a heart that felt like it might burst through my chest. My phone buzzed. A text from Jake, picking up pizza for dinner. You okay with that? I stared at the message. So mundane, so perfectly encapsulating our life together. He wasn't asking what I wanted. He was informing me of his plan and asking if I'd object. I typed back, fine. Then I opened a new message to the number I'd saved under Do Not Answer. How soon can we leave? The response came immediately. I can have us on a plane tomorrow night. I sat in that cafe for another hour, staring at those words, feeling the earth shift beneath my feet. Tomorrow night. Less than 24 hours between the life I had and the life I suddenly, desperately wanted. I thought about Jake, about my kids, about the person I was supposed to be. The responsible one, the good mother, the faithful wife. Then I thought about Dante's words. When's the last time you felt alive? And I realized I couldn't remember. I typed, tomorrow night. Tell me where to meet you. The moment I hit send, I knew there was no going back. I'd crossed a line, stepped off a cliff, set fire to the careful life I'd built. And for the first time in years, I felt something other than numb. I felt terrified. I felt exhilarated. I felt alive. The lie came easier than I expected. Maybe I'd been practicing it my whole marriage. Small deceptions about forgotten grocery items to explain where the money went. Exaggerated work events to justify being late. Omissions that felt harmless until they accumulated into a marriage built on polite distance rather than truth. My college roommate is having a crisis, I told Jake over breakfast, my voice steady despite my hammering heart. Her marriage is falling apart. She needs me to come stay with her for a few days. Help her figure things out. Jake barely looked up from his tablet, scrolling through emails while he ate cereal. How long? A week. Maybe less. That's a long time. But he didn't sound concerned, just vaguely inconvenienced. What about the kids? I have that conference in Seattle on Wednesday. Of course. His first thought wasn't whether I was okay leaving, wasn't curiosity about my friend's crisis. It was logistics, scheduling, how my absence would affect his calendar. Your mother can help, I said, the words tasting like ash. She's been saying she wants to spend more time with them. Fine. When do you leave? Tonight. That got his attention. He looked up, his expression mildly surprised. That's sudden. She really needs me. Another lie, smooth as silk. I already booked the flight. He nodded, already returning to his tablet. Okay. Have a good trip. Tell Jennifer I hope things work out. Jennifer. My fictional college roommate with her fictional marital crisis. He didn't even question it. Didn't ask for details. Didn't seem to notice that I'd never mentioned a Jennifer before in 10 years of marriage. I went upstairs to pack, my hands shaking as I pulled out the small suitcase. What did you bring to your own destruction? To the moment you burned down your life and watched it turn to ash? Sundresses. Swimsuits I hadn't worn since before kids stretched my body into unfamiliar shapes. The red dress from the hotel, folded carefully between layers of tissue paper like something precious. Lingerie that still had tags on it from a shopping trip months ago where I'd convinced myself I'd surprise Jake, then lost my nerve and shoved them in the back of my drawer. My phone buzzed. Dante's number, though he was saved in my contacts now as Alex Jim in case Jake ever looked. Private airfield, Hangar 7, 8 p.m., Packlight, I'll have anything else you need waiting. Of course he had a private plane. Of course this man who commanded rooms with a glance and had bodyguards and looked at me like I was something rare and precious would have his own jet. I was so far out of my depth, I couldn't even see the surface anymore. What should I tell people if they ask where I'm going? You're visiting a friend. That's all anyone needs to know. Sarah, are you having second thoughts? Was I? Every rational part of my brain screamed yes. Screamed that this was insane, that I was throwing away my marriage and my family and my entire life for a man I'd met once, for a stranger who made me feel things that terrified and thrilled me in equal measure. But another part, a part I'd silenced for so long I'd forgotten it existed, whispered, "When did you stop mattering? When did you become just a supporting character in everyone else's story?" "No second thoughts," I typed. "I'll be there." "Good. Because I've been thinking about you in that red dress for 4 days straight. And if you back out now, I might lose my mind entirely." Heat flooded through me, pooling low in my belly. Jake hadn't thought about me at all, probably. But Dante, dangerous, complicated Dante, had been thinking about me, wanting me, seeing me. "Is that all you think about?" I typed, feeling bold, reckless. "Bella, that dress is the least of what I think about, but we'll have plenty of time to discuss my thoughts." All week, without interruption. I set the phone down with trembling hands, my face flushed, my body responding to mere words on a screen in a way it hadn't responded to Jake's touch in years. What was I doing? What had I become? The private airfield was 40 minutes outside the city, accessed through a gate with a keypad that Dante had texted me the code for. My Honda looked ridiculous next to the luxury cars in the small parking area. A soccer mom's vehicle in a world of private jets and unlimited budgets. I almost turned around 3 times during the drive, almost texted that I couldn't go through with it, that this was a mistake, that I needed to go home to my safe, numb life, where at least I knew the rules. But I kept driving, pulled by something stronger than sense or morality, pulled by the memory of being seen, being wanted, being something other than necessary. Hangar 7 was lit from inside, a massive space that smelled of aviation fuel and possibility. A sleek white jet sat on the tarmac, stairs already lowered, waiting. Dante stood at the base of those stairs, and my breath caught at the sight of him. He wore dark pants and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, casual but still achingly expensive. His eyes found mine the moment I stepped out of my car, and the smile that crossed his face was pure predatory satisfaction. "You came." He moved toward me, closing the distance with that same deliberate grace. "Part of me thought you wouldn't. Part of me thought I wouldn't either." My voice came out shakier than I wanted. "I'm terrified." "Good." He took my suitcase, his other hand settling at the small of my back in a touch that felt possessive, claiming, "Fear means you're alive, means you're feeling something real instead of sleepwalking through life." His bodyguards, the same 2 from the hotel, Marco and Luca, materialized to take my luggage. They nodded respectfully, but didn't speak, efficient and invisible as shadows. "The crew is ready," Dante said, guiding me toward the stairs. "We'll stop in New York to refuel, then straight through to Athens. From there, helicopter to Santorini." "Helicopter?" I repeated faintly. "Of course." His laugh was low and warm. "Don't worry, Bella. I'll hold your hand if you're scared of flying." The plane's interior was obscene. Cream leather seats that looked more like sofas, a bedroom visible through a door at the back, ambient lighting that cast everything in a warm, golden glow. This was how the other half lived. No, not the other half. The top 1% of 1%, where money was irrelevant because there was always more. "Champagne?" Dante poured 2 glasses from a bottle already chilling, handing me one before I could refuse. To new beginnings. To temporary insanity, I countered, but I clinked my glass against his anyway. The engines hummed to life, and within minutes we were taxiing, then lifting, the ground falling away beneath us. I watched the city lights grow smaller, watched my life shrink to points of illumination in the darkness, and wondered if I'd ever be able to go back to it. "Tell me about your children," Dante said once we reached cruising altitude. He'd moved to sit across from me, close enough to touch but giving me space. "You never mentioned their names, Emma and Jack, 9 and 7. I pulled out my phone, showing him pictures, school photos where they smiled with missing teeth and messy hair and pure, uncomplicated joy. Emma wants to be a veterinarian. Jack thinks he's going to play professional soccer. They're beautiful." He studied the photos with genuine interest, not the polite acknowledgement most people gave. "They have your eyes, your smile. They're the best thing I ever did." My throat tightened. "Which is why I shouldn't be here. What kind of mother abandons her kids to run off with a man who sees her worth?" His hand covered mine. "You're not abandoning them, Sarah. You're taking 1 week to remember you exist as more than just their mother. That's not selfish. That's survival. You don't understand. I've never left them for more than a night. Never put myself first like this. And that's exactly why you need to." He squeezed my hand. "You can't pour from an empty cup. You can't give them the mother they deserve if you've forgotten who you are beneath that role." I wanted to argue, to defend my choices, to insist I was happy with my life. But sitting in that plane, drinking champagne that probably cost more than my grocery budget, being looked at like I mattered, I couldn't find the words to lie convincingly anymore. "Why me?" I asked instead. "You could have anyone. Women who are younger, more beautiful, unencumbered by marriages and children and stretch marks. Sarah." He leaned forward, his eyes intense. "Do you want to know what I saw when you walked through that hotel room door? A desperate housewife in a too expensive dress? I saw a woman who'd forgotten she was a goddess, who'd been told for so long that she was ordinary that she'd started believing it." His thumb traced circles on my palm. "I saw courage. It takes bravery to try to save a dying marriage. I saw hope in your eyes, and then I saw that hope crumble when you realized you'd made a mistake. And I thought, someone made this magnificent creature believe she wasn't worth seeing." Tears burned down my cheeks. "Stop. Please. I can't. Because I've spent 4 days unable to think about anything but you. About making you smile without guilt. About watching you remember what it feels like to be cherished instead of tolerated." He wiped my tears with his thumbs, cupping my face with a gentleness that contradicted everything dangerous about him. "I want to show you what it's like to be worshipped, Sarah. Will you let me?" I should have said no, should have pulled away, demanded we turn the plane around, clung to the safety of my predictable life. Instead, I leaned into his touch, letting myself be held by this beautiful, dangerous man who'd somehow seen through every wall I'd built. "Yes," I whispered. "God help me. Yes." He kissed me then. Not the urgent, desperate kiss I expected, but something slower, deeper, more devastating. He kissed me like we had all the time in the world, like I was precious, like every second of this kiss mattered more than breathing. When we finally broke apart, both gasping, his forehead rested against mine. "That dress," he murmured. "The red one. I want you to wear it for dinner tomorrow night. Just for me. Will you do that?" "Yes." "Good girl." The praise in his voice sent heat pooling through my body. "Now sleep. We have hours before we land, and I want you rested, want you present for everything I have planned." He led me to the bedroom, smaller than I expected, but still luxurious, with a bed that looked impossibly soft. He left me there with a kiss on my forehead, closing the door to give me privacy. I changed into the pajamas I'd packed, crawled beneath sheets that felt like silk, and stared at the ceiling while the plane carried me away from everything I knew toward something terrifying and exhilarating and completely unknown. My phone buzzed. A text from Jake. "Kids are asleep. Mom's here. Have a good trip." 5 words. "No, I love you. No, I'll miss you. just logistics and dismissal. I turned the phone off, silencing the guilt that tried to claw its way up my throat. Then I closed my eyes and let myself imagine what it would feel like to be worshipped by a man who couldn't stop thinking about me. For the first time in years, I fell asleep smiling. Santorini was a dream rendered in white stone and impossible blue, the kind of beauty that belonged on postcards, not in real life. The villa clung to the cliffside like something organic, terraced gardens spilling down toward a private beach, where turquoise water lapped against golden sand. Everything was pristine, perfect, utterly surreal. I stood on the balcony of my room, my own room, Dante had been careful to point out, respecting boundaries I wasn't sure I wanted anymore, watching the sun climb higher over the Aegean. Behind me, the bed was a tangle of expensive linens I'd barely slept in, too wired with jet lag and anticipation and the surreal reality of where I was and what I'd done. I'd left my husband, left my children, flown across an ocean with a man I barely knew to a place so beautiful it felt fictional. And instead of guilt consuming me, I felt light. Dangerously, recklessly light, like I might float away if I wasn't careful. A knock at the door. "Sarah? Are you awake?" Dante's voice sent shivers racing across my skin. "Come in." He entered carrying a tray, coffee that smelled like heaven, fresh fruit, pastries that were still warm. He'd changed from his travel clothes into linen pants and a white shirt, unbuttoned enough to show his throat, his chest, the edge of what I'd suspected in the hotel. A tattoo that curved across his collarbone. "I thought you might be hungry." He set the tray on the small table near the balcony doors, his eyes traveling over me in my thin pajamas, with an appreciation that made me hyper-aware of my body. "Did you sleep?" "A little. It's so beautiful here I couldn't stop looking." "I know something more beautiful." He moved closer, and I caught that sandalwood scent mixed with the salt air, intoxicating. "You, with sunlight in your hair and that smile on your face. You should smile like that always." "I don't know how anymore. Not without it feeling fake. Then I'll teach you." His hand cupped my cheek, thumb brushing my lower lip. "Starting now. Eat breakfast. Then I'm taking you into town. There's a market, little shops, places where tourists take photos and pretend they're locals. We'll be anonymous there. Just two people enjoying a beautiful day. What about your guards? They'll keep their distance. I want you to feel free today, Sarah. No cage, no constraints. Just possibility. Freedom. When had I last felt free, not obligated, not responsible, not constantly managing everyone else's needs and expectations? "Okay," I breathed. "Show me." The town was a maze of narrow streets and whitewashed buildings, bougainvillea cascading in violent pinks and purples from every balcony. Tourists clogged the walkways, cameras clicking, voices rising in a dozen languages. Dante kept his hand at the small of my back as we navigated the crowds, possessive but protective, steering me away from jostling elbows and careless luggage. True to his word, Marco and Luca were invisible. I caught glimpses of them occasionally. A familiar face in a cafe window, a silhouette on a distant corner. But they maintained their distance, giving us the illusion of privacy. We browsed shops selling handmade jewelry and woven textiles, tourist traps with postcards and magnets emblazoned with Santorini in cheerful letters. Dante bought me things without asking. A delicate silver bracelet, a silk scarf in shades of ocean blue, a small painting of the sunset that the artist promised was original, one of a kind. "You don't have to buy me things," I protested as he handed over cash for the painting. "I want to." He tucked the wrapped canvas under his arm, his other hand finding mine, fingers lacing together like we'd done this 1,000 times. "I want to see you surrounded by beautiful things. Want to spoil you the way you should have been spoiled all along. This feels like a fantasy, like I'm going to wake up in my Honda outside that airfield and realize I never had the courage to get on the plane. If this is a fantasy, then we're both dreaming it." He pulled me into a narrow alley, pressing me gently against the sun-warmed stone, his body a wall of heat in front of me. And I have no intention of waking up. He kissed me there in that alley, with tourists passing by just meters away, with the Mediterranean sun beating down and the smell of grilling meat and fresh bread filling the air. He kissed me like I was oxygen, like he'd been holding his breath since we'd last touched. And I melted into him, letting myself feel everything I'd been suppressing. Want and need and the desperate hunger for someone to see me as more than a function. When we broke apart, both breathing hard, his eyes were dark with desire, barely restrained. "Tonight," he murmured against my lips. "Wear that red dress tonight. Let me see you the way you were meant to be seen." "And then what?" My voice came out husky, unfamiliar. "Then I'm going to worship every inch of you until you remember what it feels like to be cherished." His hand slid down my side, settling on my hip with possessive heat. "Until you understand that you are not ordinary, not forgettable, not someone who deserves to be overlooked. You are extraordinary, Sarah, and I'm going to prove it to you." The villa's dining terrace overlooked the caldera, the setting sun painting everything in shades of gold and rose and burning orange. A table had been set with white linens and candles, wine already breathing in a crystal decanter. The staff had prepared something that smelled divine, garlic and lemon and fresh herbs, before disappearing, leaving us utterly alone. I'd spent an hour getting ready, my hands shaking as I applied makeup, as I slipped into the red dress that had started everything. It fit differently now, not like armor, but like a second skin, something that belonged to me instead of something I was trying to become. When I stepped onto the terrace, Dante stood from his chair so quickly, he nearly knocked over his wine. The look on his face, hunger and awe, and something deeper, something that terrified and exhilarated me, made every nervous moment worth it. "Dio mio," he breathed. "You're devastating. It's just a dress. It's not the dress." He moved toward me, his eyes never leaving mine. "It's you in it, confident, present, looking at me like you know exactly what you do to me." "What do I do to you?" The words came out bolder than I felt. "You make me want things I shouldn't want. Make me think about keeping you here forever, never letting you leave, building a life where I get to see you smile like this every day." His hand settled on my waist, pulling me against him. "You make me forget every rule I've ever followed about distance and control." "Dante, I know. You're married, you have children, you have a life waiting back home." His jaw clenched. "But for tonight, for this week, you're mine. And I'm going to make sure you never forget it." He kissed me with the same intensity as the alley, but slower now, deeper, taking his time to taste and explore. His hands moved over the silk of my dress, tracing curves, memorizing the shape of me. When his lips traveled down my throat, I gasped, my head falling back, my fingers tangling in his hair. "Inside," I managed. "Please." He lifted me easily, my legs wrapping around his waist as he carried me through the villa to his room, larger than mine, dominated by a massive bed with gauzy curtains that moved in the ocean breeze. He set me down gently, his hands going to the zipper of my dress with reverent slowness. "Tell me to stop," he murmured against my shoulder as the dress fell away. "Tell me this isn't what you want, and I'll walk away. We'll have dinner. Pretend this was just a beautiful evening between friends. Don't stop." I turned to face him, standing in nothing but the lingerie I'd bought months ago and never had the courage to wear. "Please, Dante, don't stop." What happened next was nothing like the perfunctory intimacy I shared with Jake. Dante touched me like I was art, like every curve and imperfection was something to be studied, appreciated, worshipped. He took his time, his hands and mouth mapping every inch of my body, drawing sounds from me I didn't know I could make. "You're so beautiful," he murmured against my skin, his accent thickening with desire. "So responsive. Does your husband know what he has? Does he understand what he's been taking for granted?" "Don't," I gasped, as his mouth found sensitive places that made my back arch. "Don't talk about him. Not now. You're right. He doesn't deserve to be in this room with us." His eyes met mine, dark and intense. "Tonight there's only you and me. Nothing else exists." He made love to me with a focus that was almost overwhelming, his attention never wavering, his touch alternating between gentle and demanding in ways that drove me to the edge of sanity. When I finally shattered, crying out his name, he held me through it, his own control finally breaking as he followed me over that precipice. Afterward, we lay tangled in sheets damp with sweat, the ocean breeze cooling our flushed skin. His fingers traced lazy patterns on my bare shoulder, and I felt more content than I had in years. Maybe ever. "What are you thinking?" he asked quietly. That I should feel guilty, that I should be consumed with shame and regret. I turned to look at him. This beautiful, dangerous man who'd somehow become my entire world in less than a week. But I don't. Is that terrible? It's honest. He kissed my forehead, a gesture so tender it made my chest ache. "And I won't let you feel guilty for choosing yourself for once, for letting yourself be seen, be wanted, be cherished the way you deserve. This weekend's," I whispered. "I have to go back. To my kids, to my life." "I know." His arms tightened around me, almost painful. "But we have 5 more days. 5 days where you're mine and I'm yours and nothing else matters. Can you give me that? Can you be present here, now, without thinking about what comes after?" Could I? Could I silence the voice in my head that screamed about consequences and responsibilities, and the ruins waiting for me when this fantasy ended? I looked into his eyes, those dark, intense eyes that saw through every defense, and made a choice. "Yes," I said, 5 more days. All yours." His smile was equal parts triumph and tenderness. "Then sleep, Bella. We have so much left to explore." I drifted off in his arms, feeling safer and more seen than I had in my entire marriage. Feeling like maybe, just maybe, I deserved this moment of happiness even if it couldn't last. Outside, the Mediterranean whispered against the cliffs, waves keeping time with my heart. And for 5 perfect days, I let myself forget that every paradise eventually demands payment. The days blurred together in a haze of sunlight and passion and conversation that stretched from dawn until the stars emerged. Dante showed me his world, not the dangerous parts, but the beautiful ones. Private beaches where we swam naked in moonlight. Hidden restaurants where chefs prepared meals just for us. Villages where locals greeted him by name. Their respect tinged with wariness that reminded me he was more than just a wealthy businessman. He told me about his childhood, growing up in Naples, losing his father to violence, learning to survive in a world where weakness meant death. He spoke of his sister who'd died young, of his mother who'd raised him alone, of the code he lived by that made brutal sense in the context of his world. "I'm not a good man, Sarah," he said one night, as we lay tangled together. "I've done things that would make you run if you knew the details, hurt people, made choices that haunt me. Then why tell me? Because I want you to see all of me, not just the parts that are easy to love." His hand cupped my face, forcing me to meet his eyes. "If you're going to choose me, really choose me, you need to understand what you're choosing." "I'm not choosing you." The words hurt to say. "I'm choosing 5 days. That's all this can be." His expression darkened, something possessive and almost frightening crossing his face. "Is it? Is that really all you want?" "What I want doesn't matter." I pulled away, suddenly needing distance. "I have children, Dante. A life. I can't just abandon everything because I'm having some midlife crisis." "This isn't a crisis." He sat up, his voice dropping to something dangerous. "This is you finally admitting what you've known since you walked into that hotel room. You don't love your husband. You're not happy in your life. You're drowning, and you've convinced yourself that's normal. You don't understand." "I understand perfectly." He grabbed my hand, holding it tight enough to hurt. "I understand that I've fallen in love with you. That the thought of putting you on a plane and watching you go back to a man who doesn't deserve you is tearing me apart. That I want you here, with me. Always." The words hung between us, confession and demand all at once. "You can't love me," I whispered. "You barely know me. I know everything that matters. I know you're brilliant and strong, and you've forgotten both those things. I know you light up when you talk about your children, but dim when you mention your husband. I know you taste like vanilla and summer, and you make sounds in your sleep like you're fighting even in your dreams." His voice broke slightly. "And I know that letting you go is going to destroy something in me I didn't even know still existed." Tears streamed down my face. "Don't do this. Don't make this harder than it already is. I'm making it impossible." He pulled me against him, holding me so tight I could barely breathe. because you need to know what you're walking away from. You need to understand that if you get on that plane, you're choosing to be invisible for the rest of your life, choosing to let your light die because it's easier than fighting for something real. It's not about easy, I pushed against his chest, anger flaring. It's about my children, about not destroying their lives because I'm selfish enough to want what? Love? Passion? To be seen? He gripped my shoulders, his eyes blazing. Your children deserve a mother who's alive, Sarah, not a ghost going through the motions. Don't you see? Staying in that marriage is teaching them that love means settling, that happiness is selfish, that they should accept crumbs instead of demanding the feast. His words struck deep, hitting truths I'd been avoiding. What example was I setting? That women should endure? That marriages were prisons you smiled through? That wanting more was weakness? I don't know how to do this, I sobbed. I don't know how to blow up my entire life. You don't have to decide tonight. He gentled, wiping my tears, his touch infinitely tender. But tomorrow we fly home, and I need you to promise me something. What? That you won't disappear, that you won't block my number and pretend this never happened, that you'll at least give me the chance to fight for us, even if you're not ready to fight for yourself yet. Dante. Promise me, Sarah. His forehead pressed against mine. Because I meant what I said. I love you, and I don't give up on things I love. I promise, I whispered, because what else could I say? I won't disappear. He kissed me then, desperate and claiming and tinged with the grief of knowing tomorrow everything changed. And I kissed him back, memorizing the taste of him, the feel of his hands on my body, the way he made me feel like I mattered. Tomorrow I'd face consequences. Tomorrow I'd remember my real life. But tonight, our last night, I let myself be loved by a man who saw me, even if I couldn't let myself believe it could last. The flight home was silent, not the comfortable silence of lovers content in each other's presence, but the heavy quiet of people avoiding the inevitable conversation. Dante held my hand the entire time, his thumb tracing circles on my palm like he could somehow imprint himself on my skin, make me unable to forget. I didn't need the reminder. Every cell in my body had been permanently altered by the past week. I'd been remade, transformed from a woman who'd forgotten she existed into someone who'd tasted what it meant to be worshipped. Going back felt like voluntarily climbing into a coffin and pulling the lid shut. Come home with me, Dante said as the plane began its descent. Just for tonight. Let me hold you one more time before you go back to him. I can't. Jake thinks I'm flying in at 8. If I don't show up, he won't even notice you're gone. The bitterness in his voice was sharp enough to cut. You'll walk through that door, and he'll barely look up from his phone. Ask if you had a good trip while already thinking about something else. And you'll smile and lie and pretend your heart isn't breaking. Stop. My voice cracked. Please stop making this harder. It should be hard. He turned me to face him, his hands cupping my face with desperate intensity. It should be the hardest thing you've ever done. Because if it's easy to walk away from this, from us, then I've been wrong about everything I felt this week. You haven't been wrong. Tears burned down my cheeks, but my children will survive you choosing happiness. We'll be better for it even. His eyes searched mine. But I need to know something, Sarah. Do you love me? Even a little? Or was this week just an escape, a fantasy you needed before going back to reality? The question hung between us, sharp as a blade. The truth was, I didn't know. How could I separate love from gratitude, passion from desperation, the real from the escape? A week wasn't long enough to know if what we had was sustainable, or just the inevitable intensity of stolen time. But when I looked at him, at this beautiful, dangerous man who'd somehow seen through every wall I'd built, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. I love you, I whispered. I don't know how it's possible after such a short time, but I do. You've ruined me, Dante. Ruined me for settling, for being invisible, for pretending I'm content with crumbs. His smile was equal parts joy and agony. Then stay. Leave him. Build a life here with me. And my children. You want me to uproot them? Take them from their father, their school, everything they know? Bring them here. They'll adjust. Children are resilient. No. I pulled away, the distance between us suddenly unbearable. I won't do that to them. Won't make them casualties of my choices. They didn't ask for any of this. So what then? His voice turned cold, protective walls slamming into place. You go back to your loveless marriage and we what? Have an affair? Meet in hotel rooms and lie to everyone? Is that what you want? I don't know what I want. The words burst out, raw and honest. I want you. I want my children. I want to not feel like choosing one means destroying the other, but I don't get to have everything, Dante. That's not how life works. It could be. He grabbed my hands, holding them so tight it almost hurt. Divorce him. Take the kids. I'll support you, protect you, give you everything you need while you figure out your next steps. You don't have to do this alone. And then what? I become your kept woman, live in your world of violence and danger? Expose my children to... I stopped, seeing his expression darken. To what? A man who loves their mother? Who would protect them with his life? Who could give them opportunities your husband's mediocre salary never will? His jaw clenched. I'm not asking you to join the Mafia, Sarah. I'm asking you to choose yourself for once. To choose us. The plane touched down with a jolt that felt symbolic. Time's up. Fantasy over. Reality waiting like a prison sentence. I need time, I said quietly. Time to think. To figure out what's best for everyone. Time to talk yourself out of this. Time to convince yourself that surviving is the same as living. He stood, buttoning his jacket with sharp, angry movements. Fine. Take your time. But know this. I meant every word I said. I love you. And when you're ready to stop being a coward, I'll be waiting. The words stung like a slap. That's not fair. None of this is fair. He looked at me with eyes full of pain and fury. What's not fair is watching you choose obligation over happiness. What's not fair is loving you enough to let you go even though it's killing me. He walked away without another word, disappearing into the front of the plane where Marco and Luca waited, leaving me alone with my suitcase full of silk dresses and my heart in pieces. Jake picked me up from the airport. He was late, stuck in traffic, he said, barely apologizing, and spent the drive home talking about his Seattle conference. He didn't ask about my trip, didn't comment on how I looked different, didn't seem to notice I could barely speak through the grief lodged in my throat. The house looked exactly as I'd left it. Toys scattered in the living room, dishes in the sink, the comfortable chaos of a family home. Emma and Jack were already in bed, sleeping peacefully while my mother-in-law dozed on the couch watching television. Thanks for doing this, Mom, Jake said, gently waking her. The kids weren't too much trouble. They were angels. Emma made honor roll again. Jack scored 2 goals at his soccer game. She smiled at me. You look rested, Sarah. The trip was good for you. It was, I managed. Thanks for staying with them. After she left, Jake went straight to bed, mumbling about an early meeting. I stood in the hallway outside my children's rooms, listening to their soft breathing, and felt something break inside me. I'd abandoned them, left them for a week to chase a fantasy with a dangerous man. What kind of mother did that make me? But another voice whispered, what kind of mother teaches them that women should accept being invisible? I crawled into Emma's bed, curling around her small body, breathing in her little girl's scent of strawberry shampoo and sunshine. She stirred, half waking. Mommy? You're back. I'm back, baby. I missed you so much. Did you have fun with your friend? The lie tasted like poison. I did. But I'm happy to be home with you. She snuggled closer, already drifting back to sleep. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, sweetheart, more than anything. And it was true. I loved them more than anything, more than Dante, more than passion, more than the woman I'd discovered in Santorini. My children were my heart walking around outside my body, and I would protect them from anything, even from the consequences of my own choices. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of pretending everything was normal while I died inside a little more each day. Jake noticed nothing, not my sudden silences, not the way I flinched from his touch, not the fact that I was barely sleeping. He was too absorbed in work, in his own world, To see that his wife was a ghost going through the motions. I hadn't blocked Dante's number, but I hadn't called either. His texts came regularly, never demanding, always gentle. Checking if I was okay, telling me he was thinking about me, reminding me that he was waiting whenever I was ready. I saw a woman in a red dress today. Wasn't you? Nothing is you. I miss you, Bella. Your favorite cafe opened a new location. I went. Coffee tastes like ash without you across the table. 3 weeks, 21 days, 504 hours since I held you, but who's counting? Each message was a knife to the heart. Each one reminded me of what I'd given up, what I'd chosen to walk away from. Then one morning, everything changed. I was making breakfast when Jake's phone buzzed on the counter. He was upstairs showering, and I glanced at it automatically. The habit of a decade of marriage where privacy felt optional. The preview text made my blood freeze. Can't wait to see you tonight. The usual place? I need to feel you again. My hands shook as I unlocked his phone. The passcode was Emma's birthday, something he'd never changed. The message thread was extensive, months of texts. Arranging meetings. Explicit messages that made my stomach turn. Photos I couldn't unsee. Amanda. His assistant. The one he'd mentioned occasionally, always casually. Never enough to raise suspicion. They'd been sleeping together for 6 months. 6 months. While I'd been drowning in guilt over 1 week, while I'd been tearing myself apart for choosing happiness for 5 days, he'd been systematically betraying me. Lying. Manipulating. Probably laughing about his stupid wife who never suspected a thing. The phone slipped from my numb fingers, clattering on the tile. Jake appeared in the doorway, towel around his waist, and saw me standing there with his phone at my feet. Sarah. 6 months. My voice sounded far away, detached. You've been cheating on me for 6 months. He didn't even try to deny it, just ran his hand through his wet hair and sighed like I was being inconvenient. It's not what you think. What I think is that you're a cheating bastard who's been making me feel guilty for wanting to be seen while you were fucking your assistant in hotel rooms. Don't be dramatic. It's just sex. It doesn't mean anything. It means everything. The words exploded from me, years of suppressed rage finally breaking free. It means you've been lying to me. Using me. Taking everything I give while giving nothing back. It means this marriage is a sham and has been for years. So what do you want to do? He crossed his arms, defensive. Get divorced? Break up our family over some affair that doesn't even matter? You're damn right I want a divorce. The clarity was sudden, absolute. I want you out of this house. I want a lawyer. I want every text message, every receipt, every piece of evidence that you're a lying, cheating piece of... Careful, Sarah. His voice turned cold. You want to play that game? What about your trip 3 weeks ago? Think I didn't notice how you came back different? How you've been walking around like someone died? You think I'm stupid enough to believe you were really visiting some college friend? My heart stopped. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the private plane that flew out of the executive airport the night you left. The flight plan that showed Athens as the destination. The credit card I found in your purse from some boutique in Santorini. His smile was cruel. Who is he, Sarah? How long have you been whoring yourself out while I've been working to support this family? The hypocrisy was staggering. You're calling me a whore? You've been cheating for 6 months. And you cheated for a week. In Greece. With some rich asshole who probably has a wife and kids of his own. He stepped closer, menacing. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to forget about this, both of us. We're going to stay married for the kids' sake, and we're going to stop asking questions we don't want answers to. Understood? No. The word came out strong, certain. I'm done pretending, done being invisible, done teaching our children that this is what marriage looks like. You leave me, Sarah, and I'll make sure you never see those kids again. I'll paint you as an unfit mother who abandoned her family to sleep with criminals. Criminals. I laughed, the sound slightly unhinged. How did you... I had you followed, had someone look into your boyfriend. Dominic Caruso, known Mafia connections, multiple properties used for money laundering, suspected involvement in organized crime. Jake's expression was triumphant. Think any judge is going to give you custody when they find out you exposed our children to that world? The room spun. He'd had me followed, investigated Dante, known everything, and said nothing, keeping it as ammunition for exactly this moment. You bastard. Maybe. But I'm a bastard who's going to win, so sit down, shut up, and accept that your little vacation is over. This is your life, Sarah. Better learn to make peace with it. He walked away, leaving me standing in the kitchen with my shattered marriage, and my chest so tight I couldn't breathe. But this time, I didn't crumble. This time, I didn't accept his ultimatum and swallow my rage. This time, I pulled out my phone and called the one person who'd promised to fight for me. Dante answered on the first ring. Sarah, I need your help. My voice shook, but held. He knows about us. He's threatening to take my kids. And I can't do this alone anymore. You're not alone. His voice was steel wrapped in velvet. Give me the address. I'm coming to get you. Dante, he had us investigated. He knows everything. Your connections, your business. Good. Something dark and satisfied laced his tone. Then he knows exactly who he's threatening. He knows what happens to people who try to hurt what's mine. And you, Bella, you and those children, are mine to protect now. I'm scared. I know. But I'm not going to let him destroy you. Not today. Not ever. I heard movement in the background. Him already moving. Already planning. Pack a bag for you and the kids. Essential documents. Birth certificates, passports, anything important. Can you do that? Yes. Good girl. I'll be there in an hour. And Sarah? He paused. This ends today. All of it. The lying, the threats, the fear. Today you start fighting back. Are you ready? I thought about Emma and Jack sleeping upstairs. About the life I'd been living, the example I'd been setting. About the woman I'd discovered in Santorini who'd been buried under years of obligation and invisibility. I'm ready. Then I'm coming for you. Hold on just a little longer. Dante arrived with a lawyer. Not just any lawyer. A woman in her 50s who radiated competence and controlled fury as she listened to my story, reviewed Jake's texts, took notes with mechanical precision. He's already violated multiple laws, she said calmly. Having you followed without consent, threatening to use illegally obtained information in custody proceedings, coercion. We'll file for emergency custody and a restraining order this afternoon. By tomorrow, he won't be allowed within 100 feet of you or the children. But he said, judges won't give custody to someone involved with... I glanced at Dante, unable to finish. Mr. Caruso has never been convicted of any crime, the lawyer said smoothly. His business dealings, while perhaps morally gray, are entirely legal. Your husband's infidelity, however, is well documented. His threats constitute domestic abuse. Trust me. You're in a much stronger position than he led you to believe. Jake came home to find Dante sitting in his living room, like an avenging angel dressed in Armani. The color drained from his face when he saw Marco and Luca flanking the doors, when he saw the lawyer with her paperwork spread across his coffee table. What the hell is this? Sarah, what did you do? I stopped letting you control me. My voice was steady, strong. I'm filing for divorce, emergency custody, and if you even think about retaliating, about trying to hurt me, or use our children as weapons, you'll discover exactly why threatening someone under Dominic Caruso's protection is a very, very bad idea. Dante stood, and the temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. She's done being intimidated by you. Done accepting crumbs while you take everything, but I want to be very clear about something. He moved into Jake's space, close enough that my husband stumbled backward. Those children upstairs? They're under my protection now. Their mother is under my protection. You attempt to use illegal surveillance. You threaten custody. You so much as look at them wrong. I will bury you. Legally, financially, and if necessary, physically. Do we understand each other? Jake's face had gone gray. You're threatening me? In my own house? I'm promising you. Dante's smile was terrifying. Your affair partner, Amanda? She's been contacted by my lawyers. She's willing to testify about your relationship, about how you used company resources for your trysts, about how you've been embezzling to pay for your hotels and gifts. Your choice. Accept the divorce terms my lawyer presents. or face criminal charges on top of losing everything. You can't. I already did. Dante turned back to me, his expression softening. Sarah, get the kids. We're leaving. I ran upstairs, my heart pounding. Emma and Jack were coloring in Emma's room, blissfully unaware of the war being waged below. Pack a bag, guys. We're going on an adventure. Where? Jack asked, excited. Somewhere safe, somewhere fun. Trust me? They nodded, and I helped them pack stuffed animals and favorite toys and clothes for a few days. When we came downstairs, Jake was sitting on the couch, his face buried in his hands, the lawyer calmly explaining exactly how much his life was about to change. Dante took my bag, his hand finding mine, squeezing gently. Ready? I looked at the house I'd lived in for 8 years, at the man I'd spent a decade loving, at the life I'd built that had slowly suffocated me. I'm ready. Emma tugged on Dante's jacket. Are you Mommy's friend? He crouched down to her level, his smile genuine and warm. I am. Is it okay if I help take care of you and your brother for a while? She studied him with a child's unnerving insight. You make Mommy smile. She doesn't smile much anymore. Then I'm going to make sure she smiles every day. He glanced up at me, and the love in his eyes made my chest ache. That's my new job. Think you can help me with that? Okay, Emma said solemnly. But I'm a really good helper, just so you know. I'm counting on it. 6 months later, the divorce was final. Jake had accepted the terms: joint custody, generous child support, no attempts to smear me publicly. His affair with Amanda had cost him his job, and most of his savings in legal fees. Last I heard, he'd moved in with his mother and was working as a consultant, while he rebuilt his reputation. I felt nothing for him anymore, not love, not hate, just a distant pity for a man who'd had everything and thrown it away. The kids adjusted better than I'd feared. Dante had bought a house near their school. Nothing ostentatious, just a large, comfortable home with a yard where Jack could practice soccer and Emma could have a garden. They called him Dom, and had fallen in love with him almost as quickly as I had. He was patient with them, respectful of boundaries, careful never to overstep. But slowly, over weeks and months, he'd become part of their lives, reading bedtime stories, helping with homework, teaching Jack how to throw a proper punch, much to my horror, and showing Emma how to identify constellations. They felt safe with him, loved by him, and watching him with my children made me fall deeper every day. Marry me, he said one night after the kids were asleep. We were on the porch of the new house, wrapped in blankets, watching stars emerge over the suburban neighborhood that was nothing like his world but was becoming ours. We've only been together 6 months, I protested, but I was already smiling. We've been together since you walked through that hotel room door in a red dress and looked at me like I was your salvation. He turned me to face him, pulling out a box I hadn't noticed. I knew that night. I knew you were mine, that I would move heaven and earth to keep you. Marry me, Sarah. Not because it's practical or because the kids need stability. Marry me because I love you more than I knew it was possible to love someone. Because you make me want to be the man you see when you look at me. The ring was stunning. A deep blue sapphire surrounded by diamonds, unique and perfect, and nothing I would have chosen for myself, which somehow made it more perfect. Yes, I whispered through tears. God, yes, I'll marry you. He slid the ring onto my finger, then kissed me with the same intensity as that first night. The same promise of worship and devotion, and a love I'd stopped believing existed. I'm going to spend the rest of my life making you happy, he murmured against my lips, making you remember you're extraordinary, making sure you never feel invisible again. I know. I pulled back to look at him, this beautiful, dangerous man who'd somehow become my home. You already have. Inside, I heard Emma call out, a nightmare probably. Dante stood immediately, ready to go comfort her, but I stopped him. My turn. But tomorrow, you teach me that thing you did in Santorini, the one that made me forget my own name. His laugh was low and rich. Deal. Now go be the magnificent mother I know you are. I'll be here when you get back. He always was. Always would be. I went inside to comfort my daughter, my sapphire ring catching the light, my heart fuller than I'd ever imagined possible. I'd walked into the wrong room that night in the hotel and found exactly what I'd been missing my entire life. Not just passion or desire or the thrill of being seen. I'd found myself, and in finding myself, I'd found everything.